So, okay, welcome everybody. So thanks for showing up today. And so today's class, I've just been talking with friends here telling ghost stories, so I'm a little late to get started. So today's class is going to be the final one. I wanted to actually do a recording, but I've just been so busy with moving into our new house here in Nelson that I've just been completely swamped, and I was really, really busy at work and stuff. So I'm a little bit behind here. So I just wanted to finish our course on applied meditation. And then next week, we can start Heart Sutra, which, of course, is one of my favorites and I'm looking forward to. But this is, of course, an important class. I think it's the third class we're doing here in the course. And this is just on 9 stages of tranquil abiding. So it's actually very, very helpful and practical. And it's something as Buddhists we should all know because it's training in concentration. And of course, we can't get enlightened by seeing emptiness directly unless we have the 9th level of concentration or tranquil abiding. So we have to know what that is. We have to know how to get there. That's the key. It's kind of like the key to drive the car. You get into the car and whatever, I've lost my keys, the car's not going anywhere. We need to have the mind of tranquil abiding to be able to perceive emptiness. As emptiness is considered what they call a hidden object. It's basically invisible. That's why Geshe Michael Roach has a great analogy. He talks about all the time emptiness being like a diamond, in the sense if you have a pure diamond, it's absolutely invisible. You can't see it. You can only see diamonds when they have flaws. If it's completely pure, it's invisible. So emptiness is the same thing. It's right under your nose. Everything is empty, and yet you can't see it. You have to perceive it with your mind inferentially. What we're seeing is phenomena, dependent arisings, this and this, appearances, whatever, but their emptiness itself is something invisible. So only a mind of tranquil abiding has concentrated power to be able to perceive this. Okay, so let's just start with the Heart Sutra here as a blessing, and we'll have a short meditation as well, just to begin. Okay. Homage to the perfection wisdom of the Blessed Mother. Thus I have heard at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and Mass Vulture's Mountain together, a great assembly of monks and nuns and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. At that time also Srila Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection wisdom, looking perfectly also at the 5 aggregates being empty and inherent in existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Srila Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of the great being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Srila Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly also at the 5 aggregates being empty and inherent in existence, form is empty and emptiness is form. Emptiness is none other than form, and form is none other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, this all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics. They are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There's no I element and so forth up to no mentality element, and also up to no mental element of mental consciousness. There's no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, and no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing utterly beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly in the 3 times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest, complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal and unequal mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayata, Gada Gada Paragada Parasamgadi Bodhisoha. Shariputra, bodhisattva, great beings should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, that had spoken well. Good, O son, which is like that, since it's like that, just as you have revealed, and the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, Srivakalakshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised by what had been spoken by the Blessed. Okay, great. So let's take a moment here just to visualize ourselves in a wide open space, meditating with all sentient beings. Okay, in grounds like lapis lazuli, we have a big dome overhead of us, like a beautiful blue sky. I can see most of us are old enough to remember as before computers or anything special, we used to go to the planetarium and you'd have the big dome and it would project all stuff on the sky, which is beautiful. I love that as a little kid, and that's always sort of been a bit of an image for myself, sitting in the planetarium and projecting images of constellations and stars and so forth. We're doing the same thing with light beings here. So starting with all sentient beings, we have our mother on our left, father on our right, people we love the most behind us as support, and people we like the least or have issues with in front of us as objects of compassion. And moving up from there, people from all over the world, animals, and all insects, and the whole natural world, the whole spirit world, the spirit beings from all the different planes, celestial beings, gods and demigods, and countless hungry ghosts and hell beings from all lower states of rebirth. And we can also just feel all we can send out our love and awareness here. Just feel all beings trapped in all the different wars and problems here, geopolitical problems in the world are here with us now, receiving healing and blessings and comfort and light from the holy beings. Philosopher Hegel said the only thing we can learn from the slaughterhouse of history is that no one ever learns from history. What you see when you get old enough, it's just always one war after another. It's very, very sad. Schopenhauer always said that even when you study history in school, what you study is wars. Like when periods of peace are in a history class, no one wants to talk about it. No one's interested. It's like boring. Oh, 15 years of peace. Yeah, so what? Oh, another war, another political conflict, another king or emperor falling, another civilization rise. That's all the kind of the terminal events are always the ones everyone stresses and gets excited about. But really, we all want peace and care and love and happiness. We will want those great periods of temperance and peace between all the wars. So that starts within us. We can do our little bit today, meditating and holding this place of light and peace for the world. Problems. Okay, so in the space in front of us, let's visualize all holy beings. And again, keeping it simple just for the sake of our class today, we'll just visualize like a big full moon, harvest moon, surrounded by all stars and constellations. We have Buddha Shakyamuni, and he's surrounded by all other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Dakinis, our gurus and protectors and so forth. And Buddha's has a golden energy body, wearing the 3 robes of a monk. In lotus position, and in his left hand he holds a begging bowl of medicinal nectar, and his right hand is touching the earth. And then at his heart is his higher form, is Sambhavakaya form, Vajradhara and Vajradhatu divine couple in sexual embrace. Beautiful sapphire blue bodies, wearing crowns and jewels, silks, and so forth. And he's holding a dorje and bell, and she's holding a curved knife, a drigu, and a skull cap in the cylinder. So taking refuge from our hearts, and all sentient beings until we achieve enlightenment, both refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And all sentient beings to reach even enlightenment, both refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And all sentient beings to reach even enlightenment, both refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Now generating our intention, bodhicitta here, and everything we do be the cause for the awakening enlightenment of all sentient beings. May everything we do be sort of put as karma or merit or virtue so that we get enlightened. And once we're enlightened, may all we do is lead all sentient beings to that same state. So everything we do today, meditating and studying together, be for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. heart, generating love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So may everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May they never be separated from their happiness. And may everyone have equanimity, free from nature and attachment. Seven limbs here. Think about our prostrations, offering, confession, rejoicing, asking Buddhas to stay to teach, and dedicated. So again, just from our hearts, opening that mind of generosity, of offering and prostration here, sort of going together, just opening our hearts with respect and devotion, making prostrations, making offerings. Again, our confession or declaration, or owning sort of all of our negativities and bad habits, sort of standing up naked before all beings here and holy beings and say, here I am with all my flaws. I want to work on them and outgrow them. And we can all just together just rejoice at all the virtue all of us have generated, virtue and goodness in the world, goodness of all holy beings. And keeping the conduit open here between us and the spirit world. Just we always ask, please, all of our teachers and all of our gurus and holy beings stay with us and continue to teach and to guide us. And now dedicating all of this for then again the awakening of all sentient beings, of all sentient beings. And let's see here, offering the mandala from our hearts, the whole purified universe, the ground sprinkled with perfume, spread the flowers, the great mountain, flowing in the sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land enough for us, and all beings enjoy such pureness. You can feel having sort of made all these offerings and respects and prayers and requests, just beautiful golden lights coming in like sunshine from Buddha Shakyamuni and all holy beings here, all the light beings. Yes, in Japanese Buddhism and Shingon, we say Nyorai, it means like light being, which I like use. They sort of say that to represent holy beings or Buddhas. I really like that. So just all the light and warmth coming down, just like sunlight, purifying us, brightening us up. It's like they always say, from one lamp lighting another, one candle to another, like you do in church or synagogue. And at the same time, remembering that we're feeling great, great bliss or sense of totality and contentment and happiness. Thus, please, Buddha Shakyamuni, no holy beings, grant us your blessings of body, speech, and we can feel Buddha Shakyamuni starts glowing like the sun, and really, really bright. And all holy beings start to dissolve inward into him. And then he starts to melt into light from above and below into the divine couple, Vajrar and Vajralateshwari, kind of like his higher self. And now they start to come towards us. They're very small. Again, they sort of shrink down to just like a little blue diamond or a blue piece of lapis or sapphire, about the size of a piece of corn. And glowing out of energy, they come to the crown of our head. Just like a shooting star, just kind of like in slow motion. Turn of our head, enter our crown chakra, and then slowly start to descend until they enter our heart. And once they do, just feel that they melt into us. And again, all their wisdom, compassion, power go directly into our minds. Okay, I'm just going to sit here for a few minutes. all this energy and clarity and awareness here. Okay, so it's coming out of meditation now, short meditation. Okay, great. So today we're going to talk about the 9 levels of tranquil abiding. And there's a lot of stuff on this now. It's funny because, back in the day, just probably when a lot of us started, when I started in the early 1990s, this was seen as they hadn't done any of these brain studies on meditators or anything like that. And so I was really shocked to learn all this stuff in a really nice way, because I just thought, like, it's just, you know, um, the meditation can seem very ambiguous and nebulous, and you don't know how to track yourself or to see what level you're working at, or even just having a proper map or how to arrive at sort of the destination of total concentration. You didn't really know, even if, in school they say, teach you, oh, you should concentrate more in math class or something. It's like, well, what does that mean, right? And I was amazed to sort of find out that in these teachings, Buddhist teachings, that it's all kind of, again, sort of like an instruction list or recipe list. And again, just how to make yourself like a super athlete of the mind, in the same way as you're becoming an Olympic athlete, like in track and field, or a top concert pianist in classical music or whatever else, or an astronaut or something. There's always of gauging your progress in these kinds of, whether it be careers or professions or arts. We have the same thing here. So I was always just like, wow, I'm like so impressed. And this is the idea that we're taking a worldly mind. If we look at sort of Buddhist cosmology, we sort of divide it into 3. we've got sort of karmadaji, which is like the majority of sentient beings, including lower level gods and demigods in the spirit world, live in what they call the desire realm, which is, we have bodies for the most part of flesh and blood, or more coarse energy bodies, and we're defined by our desires and actions. And then the two higher realms are the form and formless realm, which are these sort of celestial states, God states, where basically these beings are just in the form realm, basically like mind and energy, and like sort of like light beings, I guess you could say. They're not enlightened, but they're very sort of have sort of very subtle, powerful minds. And then the formless realm, which is also known as the tip of samsara, like the sort of the apex of samsara, the best place to be in samsara, so to speak, even though you're still suffering because of your self-grasping, self-cherishing mind, is the formless God realm, where these sort of gods are basically just like minds, almost like disembodied minds, you could say, just in these deep absorption meditations or jhana states, where they're completely blissed out, meditating for centuries or like inconceivable amounts of time till the karma runs out. And then, as they always say, it's kind of like taking the elevator down, and then they wake up in this world. It's like, oh my God, I'm like a human again. I have to go to work and pay off the mortgage. And what happened? Just like a crazy dream, So what we have to do, ironically, is sort of make our skill set sort of increase it, go up almost a video game level here, and take our mind from the desire realm to the form realm. So technically, by training in tranquil abiding, we're making ourselves into gods, you could say, putting our mind on a God realm. Only that mind can perceive emptiness. So emptiness is a hidden object. We have to know it inferentially. So in other words, we have to know it by means of a concept. And by holding the correct concept or mental image of emptiness, like dependent arising, or there's other sort of images or metaphors we can use. Once we have the correct one and we hold it with a concentrated mind, it's only there's sort of a connection between terms that refer to one another and terms that refer to experiences. So what we want is to sort of go from just terms that refer to another, just sort of a conceptual mind, which is on what they call the path of preparation. In other words, preparing to see emptiness, sort of breaking through to the path of seeing, or path of insight, where we're seeing emptiness directly. We're no longer seeing it mediated by an image, like we're talking about emptiness. We know about it conceptually. We can read books on it. We sort of have an image of our mind, to actually seeing it directly. Just the lack of inherence of all phenomena, of all things. So it's just like the difference between having your book on India, or let's say your favorite website, or watching your favorite YouTube channel in India, and then when you go to India and live there and whatever, get a job there or something. The difference, the experiential content between the two are completely different. It's the same thing. We're going to sort of, the bridge is from concepts or mental images that refer to one another, to ones that are sort of directly connected to the object itself, or the experience of emptiness. So what gets us over that bridge, if the conceptual mind is sort of connected, almost like a label and base, so to speak, to emptiness itself, what allows us to go over the bridge is a bridge, but what allows us to drive over it is actually shine, or shamatha, or tranquil abiding. It's only the mind of concentration that allows us to see this directly, to sort of punch through our conceptual mind and get a direct experience of that. And that can only be done on the 9th level of tranquil abiding. Sort of basically, you can't have a human mind to do this. That's what's ironic. So it's a lot like old myths. If you watch the great Disney movie Moana, I can't remember anyway, sort of the demigod that has to help her do the quest. She can't do it by herself. In the end, she does it by herself, but she gets a lot of help. It's always like in the old myths, Greek myths, or myths in China or Africa or whatever, you need help by angels or gods or anyone, spirit animals, ancestors. Everyone's helping you along the way, because technically you can't do it on your own. It's the same thing here. Like we need sort of like a God mind, a form level mind, to be able to do this. So how do we get from our monkey mind, everyday mind of everydayness, so to speak, as Heidegger would call it, to this very precious mind of total concentration, which is a mind that has no dullness and no distraction whatsoever? Well, we go up, basically walking up a ladder. of levels. So there's different ways of translating sort of the Sanskrit or even into Tibetan, but generally the 9 levels you can see are what they call, the first one is placing or setting the mind. Second level is continuous placing or continuous setting. Level 3 is resetting or replacement of the mind. Then number 4 is close setting or close placement. Number 5 is taming or controlling. Number 6, pacification. Number 7, thorough pacification. Number 8, single pointedness. And then final one, number 9, which is the arrival point we want of total concentration, which is setting or placement in equipoise. So just to go over it quickly, I wanted to have a little discussion of the 9 levels. Then I'm going to show you the famous tanka that we use to understand it, which you can download a picture of it or get a tanka or painting of it if you'd like, just as a reminder. So the first level is semjokpa, or which translates roughly from Tibetan as mind putting or placing the mind. And that's putting the mind in the object of meditation and commonly holding it for a brief moment and now and then. So basically, this is just when you find out your first, when you find out your object of meditation. When you're training in Shine, this is on the sutric level, not on the tantric level. If you're doing a Vipassana retreat or something, it's on your breath, for instance. Usually in Tibetan Buddhism, in most of the 4 lineages or 4 traditions of Tibetan Buddhism, Gelugpa tradition that we're in, they want you to train in something that's not what they call neutral object, like the breath. The breath is amazing. We always meditate on it. It's very, very good. But technically, meditating on the breath is like putting the clutch in it and shifting into neutral. It's just allowing you to relax or get in touch with your mind or concentration. Technically, meditating on your breath won't make you a better person, make you calm, but it won't actually bring in positive qualities in life unless there's some degree of emptiness or other sort of Buddhist teachings mixed in with it. Like I always say, many people have minds of great concentration, like cats stalking birds, or at work, we have to concentrate on something on the computer, whatever, all of those things. I had friends in the military when I was younger, some military family, and they always talked about training as a sniper. So you kill some politician or big general or something. They say that you have to be concentrated sometimes for 2 or 3 days. They put you in a position, you have to be absolutely motionless and just watch your breath until you see the general or the politician get out of his car, and then you shoot them or whatever. So the point is, you can even be a very bad person with a concentrated mind. Just because you're watching your breath doesn't really mean anything. I mean, it's a good tool, but we have to understand that it's best to use something that, if in Tibetan, Gom means meditation, which means training the mind, habituating the mind, or embodying what they say. Gom means habituating your mind with a positive object, and an object that produces happiness and not suffering. So it's like embodying that, making it a skill that actually becomes part of your body. So objects become part of your body all the time. When you go into a car, your car becomes your body. Like when you're parking, it's like your mind's at the bumper. When you're like this and like you're going in a bridge, ooh, can I get through it? This and that. Oftentimes, because of my bad spine and hip, I have to walk with a cane. And what's interesting, just like when you're blind, my cane becomes part of my body. It's incorporated within my body. I actually feel at the tip of the cane when I'm doing stuff. It's the same thing with your mind when you're training in concentration here. So Lama Surya Das, great Buddhist teacher, his teacher is Eminence Kala Rinpoche, the last Kala Rinpoche. You might have heard the story, but Kala Rinpoche said, "What are you meditating on?" And he goes, "I'm watching my breath. I'm training and concentrating, watching my breath." What do you think of that, Rinpoche? And he said, "Well, what are you going to meditate on when your breath stops? In other words, when you die." And it's like, Lama Surya says, "Well, I haven't thought of that." It's like, okay, well, you need a better object to meditate on that you can keep going with throughout your life or whatever state you're in. So usually in Shine or Shamatha or Tranquil Abiding meditations, you visualize a image of Buddha, because there's so much merit, virtue, brightens up your mind, makes you feel good, happy, stops negative thoughts, this in your reactive mind. So in Christina's Nyingma Center, we used to go to for years, Riwache Pemavajra Center in Toronto, they get you to sit down, then they have a stick in front of you with a picture of Buddha. So you look at that and then you go into meditation. So you're not looking, and you image that picture in your mind, and that's what you're holding. So that's a good one, because it's actually kind of making you a better person by meditating. Whereas if you're just meditating on your breath, again, it's a neutral object. So the first Tranquil Abiding here, which is basically placing the mind, is we're just holding the object. So it's a Buddha picture. It's just like, okay, image of Buddha. What is it? What's it look like? Okay, ding, there it is. So what happens, of course, instantly, ding, you drop it. So it's just that initial stage of just finding the object. What is it? So even if you have to get clear what your object is, when someone says, I'm meditating emptiness, well, what is your object? What are you actually focusing on? Almost like my mama here. What are you actually looking at? So with the second one, when you get to that, which is Gyunduk Jokpa, putting the mind in the object and the stream, you can keep your mind on an object for a short while. Distractions surge back to your mind with great force. So there's periods of distraction are longer than periods of concentration, and dullness and agitation are predominant. So this is what they call replacing the mind, which is basically at the second level, you keep dropping it, but you keep putting the object back. So it's like you've got I don't know, I was going to say some little thing you're trying to, like an apple you're putting on a wobbly table and it keeps falling off, and you put that, or a ball, it keeps rolling off, put it there, rolls off, put it there. So you find the object, then it's just about being able to hold it. Now, of course, the two contaminated mental factors of excitement and dullness, both coarse and subtle, are always being activated here, where you're also being distracted, thinking about something else, or sort of having a sleepy, dull mind where you keep forgetting the object. Level 3 of Tranquil Abiding is Len Tejokpa, which is what they call patch light fixation, or putting the mind on the object. So if we had basically placing the mind, continuous placing, and then it's replacing. So it's the same thing where you're getting better at bringing the object back. So it's the idea of putting a patch on your meditation, covering up or fixing or sewing it together, your concentration here. So there's a stream of concentration. You have breaks again of the excitement, mental excitement or distraction and sinking. But now there's shorter breaks. So whereas the second level, you're losing it all the time, you're starting to tighten it up here, and you're getting good recall. So the two mental factors you're using for concentration are mindfulness and alertness. So mindfulness is just basically, what's funny is, the mindfulness is, it's one of these words like spirituality, wellness, like one of these kind of nebulous vacated words now for the most part. Everyone says the word mindfulness, but technically the definition of mindfulness, ironically, is basically like memory. It's remembering. So it's everyone, I'm practicing mindfulness. So with concentration, this part for the mindfulness, what it's doing to your mind is, if you've got your primary mind of awareness, and then the secondary mind is coloring it or adding details to it. Mindfulness is just the process of remembering things, being able to recall things. So that's what you're doing when you keep dropping the object because you're getting dull, sleepy, or spaced out, or constantly being distracted by something. It's the memory of like putting it back. And then the second virtuous mental factor is alertness, which is the little spine-like mind, or the checking mind. It's kind of like whatever, almost like a little computer app program checking something. So these are the two ones that you're constantly using, these two virtuous mental factors, as antidotes to the negative mental factors of excitement or distraction and sinking. So fourth level, Newar Jekpa, which basically this one is called close placement or close setting. So mind is placed close to the object. Mind now can't lose the object completely. You can lose clarity or intensity, but not fixation. No longer struggle to keep object, but with quality of mind. So complete recall, but mind sometimes is too forceful. So subtle dullness results. So it's at this point, all we want to ever get to, like Lama Zopa Rinpoche taught about this, Rinpoche says, as Rinpoche talks about it, you just have to get to level 4. Now, level 4 out of 9, you're not even halfway done. But why level 4 is important is because at this point, you never drop the object. So it's like walking on a tightrope. You're like, got the little bar, but you don't fall off. So imagine if you had some kind of magic magnet shoes where you never fell off the tightrope over the canyon. But you look like an idiot. You're like, and legs are going this way and stuff. It's the same thing as that the object, you won't drop it, but you're still going to have distraction, which is less and less, and you're still going to have sinking. So what happens is that the fixation is there, but oftentimes the clarity or intensity goes. So what you're having now, less and less mental excitement, and you don't have the coarse excitement will actually drop the object anymore, but the focus starts to go, it gets all blurry. You're either getting sleepy or it's flat. Like, in other words, the coarse dullness is there where you're getting sleepy and kind of like whatever, or the subtle dullness is there where you're just spaced out. You're like, and it's just like, it's dead, it's flat, it's just like a picture rather than a real thing. So oftentimes they say here that if you're putting too much effort into it, it's with your fixation here, you have to learn to back off a little bit, because the more effort you put to hold on to it, the more dull your meditation, lifeless it's going to get. So again, it's just like being able to, the difference between holding something like this or holding something like that. You're still holding something, but you have to relax a little bit. So fifth level, do or jekpa, which means bringing the mind under control, which is also called controlling or taming. So at this point, we need strong watchfulness to catch subtle dullness. So what's happening here is, at this point, the excitement mind, mental factor is going away, and then the coarse dullness is going away. But the subtle dullness, in other words, we're just flat, lifeless, and spaced out. We have clarity and fixation, but the intensity or aliveness or energy is gone. So we have to make sure that we sort of apply that. So the next few levels of tranquil abiding are tuning that up. So the sixth level, which is pacification, Shiva Jekpa, means we're correcting the subtle agitation results from overcorrecting subtle dullness. So this is interesting, is that because we're trying to get rid of that subtle dullness and make it more alive, we're actually agitating our mind and not relaxing. So at this point, it's interesting. We need sort of the complete alertness and mindfulness now to sort of ground ourselves and relax. So with Mahamudra and Dzogchen, a huge part of that, they always say, is just learning to relax the mind. And if Namkhana Rinpoche, the famous Nima Lama, is a great thing where he says this: where there is tension, there is suffering. Where there is tension, there is suffering. So if we have a tense mind all the time, we suffer. It's kind of like almost like a definition of samsara. We're all tight. So we have to relax. And if we can relax on these subtle levels, like on the sixth level of pacification here, we won't have that subtle agitation, and we'll be able to correct this the subtle sinking mind. So pacification, so that was, we got, just to give the actual names here, we've gone through taming to pacification. Now we're going to what they call completely pacifying or thorough pacification, Nampar Shewar Jekpa. And this is, we are making our mind totally calm here in level 7. So mindfulness and alertness are complete. Dullness and agitation are not there, but we still have to make an effort to focus the mind. So there's still an idea that on this level of extremely high concentration, we still have to focus. It's just like a quick sweep of dust off the mirror of any sort of leftover agitation or excitement and sinking. And then the moment we do that, we can have total mind of concentration on our object. And then the last two, which is interesting, number 8, Sekcha to Jekpa, and 9, which is Nampart Jokpa. These are the last two levels, basically called single pointedness and also placement in equipoise. So what's the difference? Well, on level 8, we have to bring our mind to single pointedness when we start the session, and then we're fine. So there has to be this sort of initial effort where we actually sit down and like focus. It's like, there's the object, ding, drops into place there. And then we're fine. We're in total concentration. And then what's interesting is once we work on that a little bit, the 9th level of tranquil abiding is when we're at what they call placement of equipoise. We are at tranquil abiding, and this mind is no longer, by definition, a human mind. You're a mind of the God realm. So they always say when you've had that meditation path of seeing of emptiness directly, when you're coming out of that back into relative reality, from absolute reality or ultimate reality into ultimate, there's this sense of a drop. Meditators always say, like you're in the sky and then you come back, oh, I'm on my cushion. They say that part of that is like you're coming out of meditation. So you're coming out of that form realm mind, God mind, back into more of an everyday existence, which is interesting. Eh? So anyway, the ninth level, tranquil abiding, is it's an even place the mind on the object, that there's no longer any effort required into meditating. So these are these incredible meditators that just sit and go into deep absorptions almost instantly. That's the level of tranquil mind. That's what it means to have a mind of total relaxed, pure concentration. So this is the mind that we use to meditate on emptiness. So summing up, levels 1 to 2, we know that we're not really even meditating all that well. Stages or levels 3 to 7, our meditation is good, but we still have dullness and agitation. So 3 to 7, we're just working on getting rid of all the excitement in our mind and all the sinking in our mind. And we know that by level 4, we'll never lose the object, but 5, 6, 7 is about cleaning it up, our meditation. And then 8 and 9 is we don't even need alertness or that kind of gross mindfulness anymore. We have total concentration. So there we go. So I'd like to end on this just a little bit by reading something from a website. You might have seen, well, actually, let me just tell you one thing quickly, which is, not that this should be your intention, but what's interesting is when you get your mind of tranquil abiding, what happens? Well, we get all these amazing, what they call worldly siddhis, which as far as anyone's concerned, what's important in Buddhism is super mundane or extra worldly siddhis, not worldly siddhis. But worldly siddhis are still amazing. You get these, what they call miracle powers or magic powers. So you can be your own Marvel superhero just by having a mind of tranquil abiding, because again, your mind is now at a God level state. So basically, as far as normal people are, you're like a God in the world. So that's why tranquil abiding, like really, you can still have tranquil abiding being a crappy person because you just have a concentrated mind. Now you have these miracle powers. You could even be like a bad wizard or sorcerer and nothing special. That's why we always see that Shamatha practice has to be tied with the Vipassana practice, with the meditation emptiness, to make sure that as our mind's getting more powerful, we're getting these magic powers, our ego is being checked or being cut. So we don't become a danger to other people. We don't become a dangerous professional, like they say in social work. We don't become a danger to the public. So what are these things? Just to whet your appetite, there's actually 8 of them. And these are spontaneous. My first teacher, who I think had a lot of these, Genkelsen Tarchin, NKT, about 30 years ago, he said that right when you start going up the high levels of tranquil abiding, you get these automatically. It's the same way as if you're going to the gym and all of a sudden you start getting all these muscles and amazing cardio workouts. It's just by training, your body and mind become different. You get all these newfound abilities. You can lift heavy weights or jump over something or whatever. I went to a class in New York years ago with Gelek Rinpoche, and he talked about this. It was a class actually on tranquil abiding, and he said one of the biggest things that because your mind's total concentration, is you can read everybody's mind. You're completely clairvoyant. So he said what's funny is that everyone's like, well, what's that like, Rinpoche? He's like, it's like a bad martial arts movie, Hong Kong martial arts movie from the 1970s, where everything's dubbed, where the person's like, like, actually, I learned this form of meditation, like, like, it's, in other words, when everyone's talking to you in public, you're reading their mind at the same thing. And what you see is that everyone in public, again, it's like Freud said, the social lie, everyone's a complete bullshitter, because you're reading their mind, you realize what they're saying has absolutely nothing to do with what they're thinking. So he said that comes spontaneously. Like you can't even control that. It just comes as part of your tranquil abiding. But the ones that you get are the sword that enables one to travel through sky and space. So I mean, that alone, oh my God, it's like at tranquil abiding, it's almost like there's this metaphorical energy. It's like a sword you're presented with, maybe the gods give it to you or something. And at that point, it's like you can astrally project, you can go anywhere. It's like fly through space and time or anything. You can leave different places, your mind can go anywhere. And again, if you have a mind of total concentration, which means you can perceive anything, it is kind of like this form of mental projection anywhere. Number 2, a pill that allows you to become invisible and shift shape. So pill, since that there's some kind of energy that you get, that again, you can become a shapeshifter, you can become invisible. There's many famous Western occult magicians that were perfected invisibility. which means no one notices you. I think maybe you'd see yourself, but you can go into the supermarket or whatever and whatever, cut in front of the line and no one sees you do it or whatever. Number three, an I self, again, an energy that allows one to see any worldly form as non-existent, which is interesting. So again, you can, this is almost like a form of clairvoyance as well. Number four, swift-footedness or lungompa, which is that you get that automatically, where you have the CD of being able to, you might have heard about it, walk extremely fast. So that's in the old days, you think, okay, so-and-so, this great Buddhist sage, goes from Tibet to India in like 2 days. And how's that possible? Because they do, it's kind of like fast, what they call swift-footedness or fast walking. And Alexander David Meal, in one of her books, that famous French woman that was in Tibet, talked, you might have read about it or heard about it, where she witnessed this. She was camping with some friends and they saw this yogi or monk, and he was doing this, and they said he was leaping, like he was in trance, and he would walk, but each step was like hundreds of feet. So he's like kind of like a grasshopper, and he was going somewhere extremely quick, because obviously if you do that, and she said, I've heard this, you have to focus, it's like on a star, like where you're going. Don't, there might be like in Taoism, there's different meditations where there's different constellations that you focus on. It might be something like that. So you focus on a star in your complete trance, and then you just go, and you're able to sort of do that, which is just amazing. So this comes automatically when you get Shine. So five, the ability to extract and sustain oneself on the essence of plants and minerals. So you can actually do what they call chulin, where, I don't know if you remember the old Eddie Murphy movie, Golden Child, where they show that little Tibetan kid or whatever just eats a flower petal every day and that's it. So it's the same thing where you can no longer need to eat. You just have, there's different chulins where there's, some of them are flower petals, some of them you make a pill out of different precious stones. And the greatest one that Rinpoche says is star chulin. You get up every night and then you breathe in all the energy of stars and you no longer have to eat or drink. When I was in Tibet years ago, at Mount Kailash, the stars are so close because you're so high. Yeah, I've never seen so many stars in my whole life because there's no lights anywhere. You feel, you can't even go outside to go pee because the energy of the stars is so strong, you feel like you're going to go crazy just looking at them. They're so powerful. So I realized that, oh, that's what star chulin is. If I just was a yogi and I just sat here and just breathed in that energy, I would get so much energy, I wouldn't need to eat. So they even did a test of this. It was a Mandala magazine years ago. It was in the late 70s, early 80s. They had some Western Dharma students in Dharamsala that did a Chulin retreat, and they were able to go, I think, a whole month without eating, or maybe a couple months. And they were using, I think it was semi-precious stone minerals that they eat it once a week. But then the Tibetan government stopped it, because what happens is you end up pulling all the energy from the 5 elements around you. And what people were noticing, Tibetan people, is that their gardens, the flowers were starting to wilt because everyone's pulling all that chi out of it, out of your body. So that's why you have to be far away from people when you're doing this. Like if you're doing it in the neighborhood, suddenly everyone's plants in their house start, like you're taking all the energy from around you, which is interesting as part of the meditation. So ability to travel to celestial realms, invisibility, this is 6 and 7. And 8, ability to extract treasures from the earth, provide means what they desire. So this is a weird thing, but I guess it would come in really handy, is they always say that there's a CD where you can quote, see treasure. You can see lost coins, buried treasure, gold or whatever, just by looking in the earth. So you can kind of like have X-ray vision where you look down into the earth and you can see this and then dig it up and you have money. So this comes automatically with Tranquil Abiding. Isn't that kind of crazy? So I don't have a lot of time. I won't keep it, but this, if you do, you can get this famous picture. Am I going to be able to, I don't know if you can see this or not. There we go. So you might be able to see this picture on Tonkas. It's a monk chasing an elephant up the hill here, and he's flying in the sky and then riding the elephant with a rainbow back. So this is the little Tonka or a picture you have on your shrine to show the different levels, 9 levels of Tranquil Abiding. That's all symbolic to show what it is. And I will just read a quick paragraph before we end here. They give you a little write-up on the, here we go. On the Tonka, so you know how to read it. So it says here, the illustration of development of mental tranquility is painted as a fresco on monastery walls. Okay. This depicts the 9 progressive stages of mental development or tranquil abiding. obtained through the 6 powers of study, contemplation, memory, comprehension, diligence, and perfection. Beginning at the start of the path in the lower right, the diagram shows a monk chasing, binding, leading, and subduing an elephant whose color progresses from black to white. The elephant represents the mind, and its black color, the gross aspect of sinking or mental dullness. The monkey, riding beside the elephant there, represents distraction or mental agitation. In its color, its black color is scattering, which means like really coarse, like really bad mental excitement. The rabbit, which is also followed with the monk too, and the elephant monkey, represents the more subtle aspects of sinking. The hooked elephant goad and lasso, which the monk wields, represents clear understanding and mindfulness. The progressively diminishing flame, which occurs at intervals along the path, represents the decreasing degree of effort needed to cultivate understanding and mindfulness. The 5 sense objects of cloth, fruit, perfume, symbols, and a mirror represent the 5 central sources of distraction or sense objects that distract you. At the end of the path, single point of concentration is attained, and the purified elephant of the mind is now completely submissive. The flying monk represents bodily bliss and is riding the elephant, mental bliss. Riding the elephant back triumphantly across the rainbow, wielding the flame sword of perfect insight, having attained the flame of clear understanding and mindfulness, represents the uprooting of samsara by the unity of shamatha and vipassana, which directly realizes emptiness. So there you go. So that's a beautiful, he has a whole, I should send out sort of the little link of this website, but you can find different commentaries on this, because there's about 25 different stages along the path, which I said. So for instance, like on the second stage is attained through concentration, 9 is achieved through lengthening periods of concentration. So we'll say things like, for instance, it'll say level 4 or number 14, the rabbit, which now appears in the elephant's back, represents the subtle aspect of sinking or mental torpor. Here, one is able to differentiate between gross and subtle aspects of sinking. So the whole symbolism of purifying, making the elephant nice and white is purifying your mind. Again, the monkey goes from black to white and then he disappears. That means excitement is gone. The rabbit, which I guess is seen as being kind of spaced out or stupid or whatever in this sense, not that rabbits are like that, but he represents sort of the sinking mind or dullness mind. He goes away as well. And then you get to the top. So even at the top where the monk is riding the elephant, he's holding a sword going the rainbow. It says the 10th stage of bodily and mental bliss is symbolized by the flying monk and the monk riding the elephant. The 11th stage is represented by the monk riding the elephant back across the rainbow. And from the monk's heart emanates 2 dark rainbows, which the monk is just about to cut asunder with his flaming sword of wisdom. These 2 rainbows represent karmic hindrances and mental delusions, and the obscurations, instincts, and mental distortion. So that's the idea that with that mind of tranquil abiding, we apply Shamatha, Vipassana, or superior seeing, or the superior seeing of emptiness. Like we used to take that mind of tranquil abiding and use it to meditate on emptiness and get in light. There we go. That's a lot of information. So we'll end there. So again, I do just go on the internet. There's a million different websites, and you can take a look at that nice little Tonka picture. I used to know a few people that had that little picture framed on their meditation altar as a reminder for tranquil abiding instruction, for instance. So there you go. Like we're like wannabe tantric practitioners. So in terms of tranquil abiding with tantra is a completely different story. And that's another class we can do one time in the future. And the good thing about that is it's a lot easier than this. Like I've said before, to do tranquil abiding, my first teacher, Jan Kelsing Tarshan, recommended, I think it was a 2 or 3 year retreat of absolute seclusion with nobody, where you're just meditating like 12 hours a day doing this. It's extremely difficult. Whereas Tantra allows you to leapfrog over that hard work. It's hard in a different kind of way. But because we're dealing with a subtle mind rather than coarse mind, it allows you to bypass a lot of the more subtle distractions. Okay, so before we go, any quick questions on, Trisha?
So I'm just thinking between, say, like stages 1 and 3, I mean, there's kind of, even though it's delineated in a linear manner, the actual experience isn't quite as linear. It's 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. kind of
I
thing?
think it's just like working out, and everyone's got a different mind. And as you know, with meditating, every day is different. So those are probably a little bit more woolly. Like you read just like anything, like a recipe, step one, step two, but you see that it's a little bit more blurry. Between two and three, for instance, basically all that is that the length of time of your good meditation, like how long is that length of time? Like you can see, like when they have it where you just the very basic forms of mindfulness where like, can I watch my breath and let's say count to 60 without losing that object? You can see where you are even between 1 and 2 on that. Like, can I even count to 10 focusing on my breath, or even before 10, do I drop that object? Then you realize like you're barely on 2. But between, like I say, a lot of the work, the hard work's between 2 and 3, just lengthening that time of your recall, of your mindfulness, where you can bring the object back. And like I say, David Gonzalez, my Venerable Sering, one of my great friends and teachers, he always said, Matthew, just get to stage 4. He'd always be saying that, because at stage 4, you don't drop the object. Now your mind's still messed up and distracted and sleepy, but the point is you never get to that point where it's like, what was I meditating on again? Like it's always there. It's just like this. Ooh, like you feel like you can balance a pole on your hand where you're walking around like this, and it's kind of like that, except it's not going to fall out of your hand. And again, with Tantra, it's a little bit different. There's things that you can do for that make getting Shine a lot easier, for instance. This is the hard sutric path, which is why it's so hard for people to do. But again, there's no way around it. It's just like running a marathon. Like you have to train for it. You can't see emptiness without doing this kind of work. It's just that simple. So anything else, or you guys good with that? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, so that's it for this course. Now we're going to get into next week. I will do the Heart Sutra. Will be another couple weeks of live classes where I'm here at home in Nelson, just setting up the house, which is good. And we can get into the interest of the Heart Sutra again. So it's another course on emptiness, but it's a really, really beautiful one. Of course, it's the Heart Sutra we recite all the time. We're meditating together, and it's really nice to sort of know what that's about. And again, I wanted to give the tools of meditation so we know how to meditate or try and meditate with Shine, and then we've got our emptiness on the side here for our Vipassana. There we go. So thanks for coming today. We'll just dedicate this by the blessings of all holy beings, the truth of karma, the power of pure intention, all of our Dharma wishes being fulfilled, all sin and means reach enlightenment. And we can just ask all the time, please, Buddhist, bless my mind that I'm able to concentrate. This is the hard work of inspiration, guidance that I need. Please help me get Shamatha. Okay, hang on. Let me just press stop here. Okay, see you next time.